Hello. Hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. So we are gonna have a very chilled stream today. I will be going around our scene. I want to show you how far I've went with remastering Act 4 from Diablo 2, and also I'm going to show you some of the elements and some of the techniques that I used, and also like to optimize and what to use for modeling and to save some time, since you can see that this level is pretty huge. I will go quite kind of fast through that one, and I'm also going to show you the levels before entering this zone. So I will show you some of the models and some of the assets that I made, and also maybe we will have time and we will create one more asset, as I didn't create the latest waypoints, which are right before coming to this zone. So yeah, let's quickly start. I will just first start with the zone itself. Feel free to ask me any questions. I will stop from time to time to have some like a Q&A, and yeah, just feel free to ask me if you want to know a little bit more about how I built some of the assets, or yeah, anything which is related to game art. So let's quickly I'm going to quickly go through the level and show you how it looks. So you can see that I have a terrain that I still didn't remove some of the parts, like this is something that I started little by little optimizing it in some places, but this is something that I'll do at the very last stage. So instead, I just kind of started from the center. Since this scene, I didn't really know how much I will need in terms of space. So I kind of started from here, built up this zone, and after that decided like increased the size of my terrain a little bit, and made it all the way to here. This is actually the very last part that I added. I first extended it that way, and this was something that I added a little bit after that, mostly because I still didn't have some of the elements created, so I couldn't really take some measures and understand how much space I will need. So here I started very simply with just building free some of the elements that we created early on for the city itself, and you can see I still haven't grouped all of them. So you can see that this whole site is built just from those three elements. Like I have two bigger stone elements, and then this one and this one. So it's quite simple. Then something which is unique for this level, and I didn't use it in the ones before, are those cathedral walls and the pillars between them. So those are something that I tried to get as close as possible to the original ones. Let me just open my reference. I will show you how the original ones look like. So I was taking actually a lot of screenshots. So these are the original ones. As you can see, you don't really understand a lot from all the elements that are there, but I tried to get as much as I could from. Actually, this is like one of the best places that you can see them. The majority of this zone, you see them really dark, so you don't really understand what's happening. But yeah, this is like one of the best spots for this screenshot. So you can see that I try to replicate as closely as possible, and also there is like one more element which I need to create so that I have this, and maybe bake a little bit some details here and there. But those I kind of left to do it as a pass of iterations, because I didn't know how much time it will take me to first construct the whole level, since it's quite a huge space. And yeah, I decided that it will be best to just first start by keeping it like to a medium level of details, and later on I can easily go back and build some of the parts. So for this elements I made a high poly, and after that I used a trick, actually I'll show you, to give a little bit of a thickness to those elements and ornaments inside. There I need to make a little bit of an adjustment, but you can see that if I move from side to side, it looks like they have a little bit of a thickness. It's actually a very old school trick that I used back in, I think, 2010. Doing some mobile games, we were using similar tricks to give thickness to some areas, and we were just stacking like few polygons on top of each other. In this case, it's this is just one polygon which actually has an alpha texture, and this alpha texture I just duplicated this polygon 3 times with a little bit of a distance in between. So this way, if you come, of course, like this, you're going to see it. But if you're looking from here, you can see that you can't really say that there is something like that happening, especially if I come on a more lit place. You can see that it gives a little bit of a thickness. Of course, you can, if you go very close to the frame, to the model, you will see it. But since in Diablo it's a top-down camera and you see everything from a distance, it still gives a little bit of a depth to the whole structure and to the elements. And I will probably be using this too on some other places as well. What else is a unique element here that I made for this part? Those will be those pillars, and as well the statues for the knights, and some of the VFXs which are happening, like these fires, and also some of the smoke effects which are around, that I will have definitely one pass around them, because I kind of want to just integrate a little bit better the environment with the 3D models with the ground. And one way that I'll do it is by using some of the VFXs to give it a little bit more soft blend between those two. So I want to make it like some steam or smoke coming around, so it doesn't look as harsh. I also need to work a little bit more on the lava and animate it so that it doesn't just stay static as it is now. And this zone at the moment is quite square, so I wanted to test a little bit the space and see how crazy I can go later on. And I want to show you the screenshots to just quickly go into comparison. What am I looking for? So this is for here, actually. So this is this part here that I'll be building, and you can see that there's quite a lot of places around where you can find those type of structures. So I started already building, and there are some like very square places. There are some which are a little bit more organic ones, And for the organic ones, I will create one more texture and just go around the corners and just have this feel of rocks, while for the others I will just build the same frame around it. So this is the entrance to the zone, and here you can see that at the moment we only have actually our stairs and we don't have the base for it. So here I need to finish my rock formation. It will be combined I'll combine some rocks together with some of those meshes. Those meshes are actually very tall, so I'll be able to easily use them to build something around here. And another thing, which is some of the new elements, are going to be the skulls. Here I try to optimize them for this scene. So this is actually just one mesh that I made, and after that, because I didn't want to have that many static meshes inside the scene, because it will increase my build times, and also in terms of optimization it's not good, because this means that it will be rendering a lot more elements than not just one in the scene. So I created just one skull, after that made a pile, and created a group of this pile. So this group I will show you here. You can see that it's a new static mesh which is grouped by a couple of meshes which are directly from the scene, and this I think is one of the fastest way of later on optimizing your scene, and also is something that I saw in a few of the Epic demos that they're showing, especially for mobile, that they just build up the whole scene, and after that hello, yeah, welcome to the stream, and after that just create those groups, and this really helps the performance and helps everything be much faster rendered. So let me show you how I go for some of the things. Like, a lot of the elements here are placed, like, not a lot, everything is slowly placed by hand, like one by one, and at the moment that I'm already happy with something, and where it's how it looks, how the light interacts with it and everything, I just grab it and group it. So that way, when I create a group like that, I can reduce the amount of elements that are being rendered. This is again the same optimization that I mentioned for the skulls. And grouping your elements like this, it really helps. It's a very quick and fast thing, and it's something that I'll show you right now how to do. So once we have some meshes that we know that we are not gonna move anywhere, or we can reuse it in other places, we can select those directly from our scene. And after that, oops, almost. Having some VFXs in the scene always makes things very hard to select. So we just right click it, and there are two things that we can do. One is we can just directly group it. This way it's not a combined, it's not a combination of all the meshes. So this way we're just grouping it. It's if we want to test it in another place, and after that ungroup it or repack it with some other elements. Or we can go merge actors. When we merge actors, I'll click it, and you can see we can put it just, I'll just leave it by default. We need to select a place where to merge it. I have this folder which is with meshes, and here we click save. Once we merged the actors, I will move the content browser here. you can see that it created this new static mesh, which if I now drag and drop it, it will be the group of the combination of all the meshes that we had so far, the ones that we had selected. So now, instead of me going back to a 3D software and combining everything so that everything is just one group of elements, it's directly created inside Unreal, and you can see that it's after that very, very easy to manipulate it and do everything that we want. And the most important part is that this way we are not having tons of elements that are being rendered at the same time, but instead we just have like one big chunk, which is much more optimized and much more friendly for the performance. So another thing that I wanted to show you that I made a recent update is actually we are not running, I saw lots of comments on that one. We are not anymore running with our gray guy, which is the default Unreal mannequin. Instead, I made a new character, which is for us. It's still work in progress, so you can see how it looks at the moment. And I'm planning to finish and add a little bit more of animations to him. There are some things that I need to polish in terms of animations, in terms of how he interacts with the world around. And I want to add also some very basic logic for interacting with enemies, and also to be able to fight them, and just not to be completely walking around everywhere, but as well to have like some small interactions here and there. Okay, so let me show you the other level, how that one is going. Let's quickly save it and open the other one. So this one is much bigger. Everything started pretty much just from the city. I actually initially wanted to just make the Pandemonium Fortress, the city area, and didn't really had as an idea to build everything else. But yeah, I just had so much fun building it, and it was very pleasant work. And yeah, I decided why not to create the rest of Act 4, and especially since Diablo's anniversary is coming. It's just 1 week from us. I will be I want to finish it by then, and this will be like my anniversary present, if you can say so. So here you pretty much know already, if you follow me, the scene. What you don't know is the rest of the level. I showed a little bit of it here on the front while walking around, but there were a lot of changes that I made recently. One of them being the texture on the ground. So I improved it quite a lot actually from our previous one. So and I also made this part to be as close as possible to the one from the original. I will show you my reference, and I will tell you quickly how I did it. So you can see how the original one looks like, and so it has just like some dirt, and here and there's some blendings of like some bones and rocks and other things. So what I did, I wanted to go very close to this look. So I ended up actually taking some small pieces and parts, like just from the screenshots from here. And I made one black and white texture, and after that used it as a mask on top, like I made it tiled in a very old fashion in Photoshop, and after that used Designer to just create the rest of it. So now it has a little bit closer look to the original one. Another thing what I want to show you is exactly the blending that I mentioned a little bit earlier with between the terrain and also between the upper side, like all the geometry. And this is something that I want to do as well with the zone where Diablo is, because at the moment you can see that it's not really well blended and doesn't look that good. But here, the way that I'm actually making this gradient, I'm using a particle system. So if I just hide it, you can see here the hard edges, and this is something that I don't really like it as a look. So I created this particle system which just spawns a little bit of a smoke from underneath, and it helps really blend very nicely, and it looks like it's going into darkness. So it's I would say that it's not very cheap in terms of performance, but as this is a PC game, so it doesn't affect us that much as if it was a mobile. And as well, since it's a top-down, we don't see some huge areas and some huge zones, like for example in a third-person game. We can do stuff like that just because in this particular zone here, we have very few assets and very few things that are happening. So this way we can use any kind of tricks just to make it look better, and it won't really affect our performance. Another thing that I also started building are, you can see in Diablo that in the original one there's a couple of elements which are being repeated over and over again. So for example, we have these pillars, we have this one, then we have the ones with the chains, we have the ones which are lifted a little bit, then another variation of it, and then we have those kind of structures. So I pretty much created most of the variations that they had, and tried to make them, some of them close as possible, some of them I a little bit changed them, because since at the moment the project has a perspective and it's not in orthogonal view, there are some things that just looked a little bit weird. So, but one of the things that I try to keep very close to the original, there's still a little bit of work on it, is actually those structures. So you can see that this is how the structures in the original one look like, and this is what we have at the moment. So those I used a very similar method to the one that I just showed you. I just started adjusting. You can see that I left this one not grouped at all, because I wanted to show you of what elements it's being constructed. So those are like very simple, very low poly elements that if you go very close, you can see that they don't have that much of a geometry, but since our camera is kind of from top, we don't really see this. And later, when I'm happy with certain element, I just again grab it, merge it, and just create a single merged asset, so that I can after that easily rotate it and place it in different places in the world. And this element, specifically the structure one, is being used twice. I have it one more time here. I'll probably create few more structures, different ones for the last part, because There it's very interesting, the design, because at the very beginning it's a lot more open space and a lot emptier. And as gradually we go closer and closer to going to where Diablo is, we have a lot more structure, a lot more destroyed objects. And I want to keep the same logic, because I think that it's part of the soul of it. So the first one is like the least populated, let's say, and gradually it will become more and more populated. Also, yeah, we have the elements that we just saw with the chains. Those are pretty much the same. I just created a few different variations and after that grouped them. And this here that you see is actually the terrain. I just lifted it up. So if I grab this and move it on the side, you can see how I just lifted the terrain to use it there. Another thing which I wanted to show you, and this is if I click play and go from the city. So let's walk a little bit. If I come from the city, initially I had a problem with the collision of the stairs, because the ones that are in the game, like the ones that are in the original Diablo, the stairs are very huge. They're very high ones. Definitely not standard by any modern architectural measures. So I had a problem with the collision, and the problem was that the collision was like the stairs were just so huge that the character couldn't really walk on them. So what I ended up doing is actually I completely removed the collision for all those elements that are creating the stairs, and instead I built a very simple mesh which is completely invisible. I just made a material which is completely invisible, and that geometry serves just the purpose for having collision. So at the moment you can see that you can pretty smoothly climb up and down on the stairs. And I also use the same method in a couple of other places, so that you can easily climb and just fix some collision issues and fix some problems that were occurring because of just the size and just how elements look like, and basically the difference between the ones that are being into orthogonal view and also the ones that are being already into perspective. So here is another place that I use the same method. There is some invisible geometry around, which you basically, it's like a ramp, and it doesn't take into consideration all the collisions of the stones, because I removed everything. Same goes here. Let me show you how this mesh looks like, and also I want to show you how I exported this geometry, and after that got it inside 3ds Max and created the fake collision around it. So first you can see that this is built from individual elements. It's not a single mesh. I made it on different pieces because I wanted to rotate, and I wanted to have a few different versions for all the places where we have such a staircase. And if I move out from the view here, collision, we will be able to see our collision mesh. Okay, I managed to select it. And I can come and open it. So this is our mesh. I will remove the invisible material that I have on it at the moment, so you can see how it looks. So this is how the mesh looks like. And let me reassign our invisible material so that it just stays hidden. And the way that this was built, hello and welcome, thanks for joining. So the way that you can build something like that is if you already have some geometry, which is some zone which you create with a couple of different meshes, and you want to create a custom collision for it so that it plays well and it doesn't bother the players, you can select the geometry that you have. After that, right click it, and from there you can just go to let me see, where was it? You can edit, nope. Oh my god, I completely lost it. So here, okay, yeah, so we can merge it, and then we can go and export that mesh, and it will keep the same form. So once we have already the same form, we can come to 3ds Max. I'll show you exactly with those stairs. I already exported them from Unreal. It will, they will be exported as an FBX. Let me just find where I exported them. Okay, they are here. Okay, so yes, you can see now the stairs that are directly from there. And what I did was to build up that collision was very simple. I just created a plane. You need to keep in mind that you can't really, you can't climb unless you tweak the settings in Unreal. You can't climb above angles that are more than 45 degrees. So you should not make it very steep. And here we can just go like this all the way to the end. And after that, make few extra connections here and there. So like that, and also rotate it. Oh, it's a very, very simple and basic modeling to build the collision. Here at the end, I did it like this, just so that it goes smoother and it doesn't really go through our mesh. And here maybe adding one more piece, it's gonna be a smart decision. Of course, you can play as well with the width of everything and make it so that it fits as close or as perfect as you want. The important part, hey, welcome to the stream. The important part, once you finished with the collision, is to close it, because we cannot have just a plane like this. So the easiest way is going to be to select our edges, and after that just extrude them down. You can hold Control and click on vertices so that you go on all the vertex. And after that, here there are some align tools, so we can just use align them on Z and move them down so that everything is aligned. And once you have this part done, we can easily come deselect those two edges, then bridge, and we have everything close. So now once you have this element, you can export it on its own. and later on when you get it inside Unreal, you can place it on top of the mesh with your stairs, and have a very nice playable collision. Let me run one more time on it so you can see how it works. So yeah, if we go here, you can see that I'm able to walk on it. I left a kind of small zone. I didn't really want the player to have too much of a room to go all the way to the end, so it to be a little bit more smooth, because sometimes I was getting the error if if I'm going too close to the edge of not really running very smoothly down, and the AI for finding the fastest path from one point to another was getting a little bit confused. So making it a little bit tighter and smaller made it work better. Now the only thing that we are missing are some enemies. I actually started working on that. I have already some skeletons that I prepared. Those guys are my test dummies that soon I will add a little bit of a logic behind them to just chase you, and for you to be able to hit them. It will be probably just one hit kill, and our player won't really have like any blood or health, so there won't be much of a gameplay, but I just want to make something very, very easy and very simple. And the reason why I'm actually doing the whole gameplay part is I'm planning to finish the whole scene for 19th, which is the Diablo 2 anniversary, and then I will make a special video which will be with like a just small walkthrough around the whole scene, but also I want to make this as a build, and give it as a file, so that everyone who wants to kind of go into some nostalgia and play a little bit on it can always play it, and yeah, that's the whole point and the whole part of it, is to make other Diablo fans happy. So here I'm going to have the part which goes down already towards the Diablo den, and where everything is being situated. I know at the moment it might look that we are kind of far from finishing it, but trust me, 1 week it's gonna be enough, because the most time-consuming part, I would say, it's over. It's building those structures and building like the preparation for them was the part that took me most of the time. And at the moment, it's just a matter of selecting an element and duplicating it somewhere else and adjusting a little bit the light. So now already the whole process goes a lot faster, and this whole thing, I think, will take me maybe a day of work, or maybe a little bit more than a day, but it will be definitely a lot less than what it was up to this moment. Also, in terms of NPCs, we have Tyrell that I finished. Here, still, for him, his wings, I didn't finish his VFX, but it turned out to be a lot harder than what I expected. So I asked a colleague of mine to a little bit have a look on the VFX. He's a VFX artist, so he will help me a little bit on the VFXs, and we are going to make them look cool. I have to build one more waypoint, and yeah, that's how far we are. If you have any questions or interest in assets, like how many assets I built so far, how did I build some of the assets, or materials, what I have in mind in terms of optimization, just feel free to ask me in the chat. We are going to make like few times through the stream, just some small Q&As. So yeah, just feel free if you want to ask me something and you're curious. What else I can show you here that I didn't really show on the videos? I think the cloud and this particle is probably the one which is the most was the most interesting and tricky thing to create, because I really wanted it to blend nicely. So I spent quite a lot of time building that one. And also I wanted to take into consideration a little bit the environment and the lights from the environment. So the whole fog and smoke which is around, it's taking also a little bit from light from the environment. So you can see that it's not just plain color, like here it's visible pretty well. You can see that there is a little bit of a more darker area, and then another area which is a little bit more lit, since the light is dropping from that side. And I can talk a little bit about the lights, because I have quite a lot of lights that are in the scene. I have some which are dynamic and also some which are static. And also it will help you understand a little bit more what I did for the optimization as well. I saw one comment recently that about the shadows for the character, and that at the moment the character has its shadow which is being cast from the main light source, but once we pass some of the fires, we don't really have a very special shadow, or at least we have like these double shadows happening. So this is something which is happening because the main shadows for the character are coming, of course, from our directional light. So my directional light is just a simple sun, which is a stationary light. So let me go and select it. So it's stationary light. You can see that it's with a very low intensity, because I just wanted it to have here and there a little bit of this bluish like dark night sky feel, and it's stationary because I wanted it to be baked into all the meshes, but also I wanted it to have dynamic shadows for our character. So if you're not familiar, I'll just quickly go through what's the different types of lights in Unreal. So we have the static one, which is just strictly bake lights. It doesn't affect any dynamic shadows. Then we have the stationary one, which just skeletal actors are going to be affected by dynamic shadows, but everything else is going to be baked. And the last one is going to be movable, which means that everything is going to be with dynamic shadows. So the whole scene to be running pretty well. Let me see at the moment. Yeah, you can see that it's kind of on 60 FPS everywhere, which was my goal. Is that I have a lot of static shadows, a lot of static lights, and very few dynamic ones. Usually I'm using like 1 or 2 dynamic lights around areas where there's some fire, just and it's affecting actually just the character. It doesn't affect the environment. So the environment is completely static all the time. I have actually placed a lot of static lights everywhere. You can see there are some inside. I also am using not only point lights, but also a lot of the spotlights, because I want them to have a certain direction, and also I want them to have like a certain feel. Like for example, in this case, I wanted to have a difference between the intensity of the light that's coming this way. So I wanted it here to be a lot brighter than what's going on the other side. Same goes here, and also here on the top we have also some small lights which just lit up this upper area, so whenever the character is here, it's not complete darkness. Excuse me. This part here was, I would say, one of the tricky ones to decipher and to understand what exactly is going on from the original one, because I will show you the reference that I was working with. So let me okay, so I'll show you like this. Here you can see that in the original game we have these elements that it looks similar to what we have in my scene. The thing is that from looking at it from the inside, it looks quite straightforward and quite simple thing to do. But if you compare it to how it looks from the outside, it's not that simple, because here you can see that we have this element which goes backwards, and also here actually this space between those roofs is very small, so it doesn't really allow us to place such modules. And this is all the orthogonal view that I mentioned, which makes everything very hard to understand what is the depth of it, and what's the different proportions between the different elements. So getting to the point of having it look like this was actually quite a lot of iterations. I think that I spent on it quite a lot of time. And the other part, which was the big challenge, was also the marketplace itself, because in the original one it's the proportions don't really make sense compared to the walls. So I had to go somewhere in between, and yeah, generally getting initially the whole scale was challenging. Okay, so since we covered and I quickly went through the whole level, let me open again our level with the end zone, and we are going to do some work. I'm going to start placing some of the edge assets. You can see that there's quite a lot of places that we are still missing assets. And meanwhile, just if you want to ask me something, feel free to write in the chat. If I'm able to reply and give you an answer, I will gladly do it. So let's quickly start some copy pasting some of the assets and placing them around. I will maybe first start by duplicating this whole element. So what I'm gonna do is I will select the majority of those. Let's start from here. And as I showed you few minutes actually already ago, I'm going to merge them and create a new element. I'm not going to make it too long because I have some areas that are pretty small, and I don't want to I don't want to create too many of those elements, so better to create a small one and then add few other pieces on the side than other to have to create too many of those custom elements. So I'll end it actually like this without the big ones. Now on this side we are going to have it. Right click and then we go to merge actor and merge. We are using our mesh folder and save it. Okay, so now I can just easily drag it on the scene and place it the way that we want. Here on the very end, I'm going to add ones that are just single meshes, so I'll just quickly build that part. Let's see how. Okay, like this doesn't look too bad. We are going to fix the corners at the end. I'm going to continue with our copy and pasting. Gonna put the snapping to a bigger number so it goes a little bit faster. I like levels like this. They just so much repetition of the same type of meshes, and they just go being built quite quick. So we are doing also some of those elements. This, and I'm gonna place one more here. And for the corner we are going to do something different, something a little bit more special. Maybe I'm gonna use something like this element here that I built. It will be a little bit more interesting. Let's make it like that, and later we are going to of course edit our terrain. So this will align with let's align it with this element. I think that it will be the better choice. Hello, welcome. How are you all doing? Hope you're having nice evening. Very productive Friday evening with some YouTube and some streaming. Okay, we are good with this. I will add as well here few individual pieces just so that we finish the corner. I'll come and grab some elements from here. We have a question. How long have I been working on this project? Yeah, thanks for the question. I spent so in time. I think I spent the last month working on it. But in general, if I have to say in hours, I think that like I'm spending on it maybe around 10 hours per week. So far, let's say something like maybe 50, maybe 60 hours, something like that. It's it takes quite a lot of time. Unfortunately, I have just my free time after work to work on it. So I try to be as productive as possible in those hours, and this is why most of the time I actually didn't stream. Now that the project is already on a pretty good stage, I would say, I wanted to make a little bit of a stream and show you a little bit more, and also give you guys chance to ask some questions if you have. So yeah, I think something like 50 to 60 hours in total so far. This is with yeah, modeling all the elements. I think that the biggest and the time that was the part that was most consuming was actually the planning phase, because I think that maybe 20% of my time went into the planning. But once I already got the metrics correct, also I made few quick tests and already knew and made presets for Painter and like set it up brushes and all the things. I think from there the work went very quick, and yeah, things happened very fast. Thanks a lot. I'm glad that that you like it. I also huge fan of Diablo. Actually, this is I started with Diablo 2 because initially, before I was still in school, like I was actually very little, and Diablo was like the game that made the biggest impression when I was a kid for me, and it was the thing that got me overexcited for doing games and game art. And later, I think that the next one in terms of influence on me was World of Warcraft, and actually my whole learning started with World of Warcraft, because when I started learning more about 3D, I was still in high school. Initially started doing some experiments at home on I think I found some version of Maya, or some colleague of my parents gave them version of Maya, and yeah, that was like the first software that I started using. And since I couldn't find, like, there were no tutorials, there was no any books, what I was doing was I was playing at that time World of Warcraft, so I was going and making screenshots from different assets of the game, and then trying to recreate them. And I always wanted to go back and work on something which is more gothic, more dark, and something from the Diablo universe. As this is, I think it's kind of my all-time favorite game, and yeah, now already decided that I have the time. I have also started YouTube, and what better thing to start YouTube than the thing that actually got me into game development. So I was just hoping that there are still some old school Diablo fans and some people that might be interested in into checking how some of this content, some of these Diablo games are being made. Are you guys also fans of Diablo? Was it an experience once you played it for first time? I think it was a big thing back in 2000 when it came out. I compare it to the games that the other games that came in those years out. I think it was a huge improvement and yeah, something very, very different from what you could see. So I waited for a stream and I'm very glad that there will be a recording. Yeah, the stream is going to be available on my channel. So once the stream is over, I'm not going to put it like unpublished or anything like that. It will be available like the previous stream. So it's late, I know. And for those of you that still want to watch it and want to check some of the work, yeah, just feel free to go onto the channel and watch it later on. And of course, if you have some questions that you wanted to ask me during the stream, but you were just not able to be present, don't worry, just leave a comment on some of the other videos. I will be happy to reply. I actually started, still didn't had the time to really polish it. Started a Discord, and I wanted to make this Discord exactly for questions. So for all of you that are developing games or just want to become game artists or game developers, to be able to send there and just makes like some small community of 3D and game artists and yeah, grow all together and build some cool stuff. Studying Zbrush. Zbrush is awesome. So initially when I started working, I was like my first professional work was started 2010, 2009, somewhere there, and it was for Gameloft. I actually was not a 3D artist. I was a designer, and thanks for the compliment. And back then I didn't have that much experience with 3ds Max, so when I started working in Gameloft, they were using 3ds Max primarily. Of course there were some things done on Maya, but Max was majority of work. And I started learning it then, and I'll get to the ZBrush part, don't worry. I know that I start from very far, but I'll get to the ZBrush part. So this was era before kinda ZBrush was that popular, and there was actually one software that I think it disappeared somewhere. I'm not sure what happened to it. It was called Sculptris. Maybe you guys know about it, and maybe you've seen it somewhere. It still exists in the internet somewhere in the very deep parts of the internet. So Sculptris had like the very basic things like a very basic Zbrush. You could just use some alphas, make some brushes, sculpt something, export it, and that's it. Like subdivide, import, export, nothing fancy. Super simple program to use, and Zbrush actually at that point was in terms of tool, like in complexity, was very complicated because as a new 3D software, there's always this curve of learning, I would say. So whenever people initially start working, like whenever a software that is like very different from other softwares like 3ds Max at that time for modeling comes out, there is this part, there is this time that people just kind of assimilate what exactly is happening and how they can implement it into their workflow. So for me at that time was very interesting but very hard to work with Zbrush. So I started learning it a little bit in my free time, and I didn't really I would say I didn't really progress with it. So I was not doing anything good, but just by doing some experiments and yeah, keeping up from time to time some small projects whenever I could do with it, I think gave me good experience and good understanding. And actually, few versions later, they optimized it so much in terms of menus and workflow and features and how some things work, that I think that just half a year after I came back, I already was feeling so much better in just being inside the software. So yeah, Zbrush is an awesome tool. It's definitely something that if you're looking into making 3D art, you should learn, and it helps you create awesome stuff. Especially the newer versions, it's just amazing. It's amazing how much they made it more simple and user friendly from what it was before. And even just the tools that you can create some of the base meshes, and you don't have to go back and forth between some 3D software like 3ds Max, Blender, or something else, and Zbrush, and just you can create some very base meshes there very quickly and very easy. It's great. Let me see the other question. Graphic design and how any of this, but thanks for the support. I'm glad that you enjoy what I'm doing, and I hope that also you enjoy. I don't know if you guys saw the short teaser that I made for Diablo. So it's a teaser for the series that I started working. So once this level is over, and it will be like the last update on it that you will see will be on 19th. So just one more week that you will see content being posted from the Diablo 2 Act 4 remastering, and after that I still wanted to create some Diablo content. So I started this short series that I want to create some of the lore and some of the cool and amazing stories that are inside Diablo to make them as cinematics. So I will use quite a lot of the lore that is in the game, and also some of the stories and some of the things I will maybe a little bit make up my own ideas, just to have a little bit of creativity there, and to combine a little bit and see how it goes. Thanks, yeah, thanks for following. I hope that the channel will grow, and yeah, it will be more useful, and more people will enjoy the content, and we will have more and more people coming here and telling their stories, and yeah, just building some nice, friendly 3D community. So yeah, thank you for joining, and check the recording for sure. And we are continuing by cloning some more stuff around. Let's add one more here, and I'm not really sure what to do on this side. So 3D art, I would say it's a big portion of problem solving, and the skill for using some of the tools, like using Max, Unreal, or anything else, there is a learning curve, of course. It's something that you need just to put the time to learn it, and the best way, of course, to learn it is by practicing it and by just experimenting and trying different things. Something that doesn't look good, or something that you're not very happy with the end result, doesn't mean that it didn't grow you as an artist, and fail and these things are, I would say, very huge portion of being a 3D artist. And even when you're already like experienced artist, of course, there will be already things that you went through, and will save you lots of time, and you will just build things faster. But this doesn't mean that you won't be going back and forth and experimenting and testing, because every environment, every project that you are working on has a style, a soul of its own, and really this needs exploration, and also needs to from 3D artists to put effort into getting like aligning what they are doing with this type of content and this type of project. So I would say that let's paint a little bit here, not to have this lava stopping, so not to have okay, like this it's good. As you can see, another thing that I want to talk about is I don't go and concentrate in one zone and in one area. It's a good practice to just go around the level and build it little by little. Don't go and spend too much time in one place, because then you have something which becomes too developed, and the rest of it doesn't look as good. So my general process of working, I would say, it's I try to build upon. So I'm putting some even very simple geometry, and later on this geometry I sometimes modify it, sometimes I add some new elements and new pieces there, so that it becomes a little bit more detailed. And sometimes you don't really actually need to do anything else. The geometry itself works perfectly well, and the only thing that is needed to be done, like for example here, I'm thinking that I'll remove those elements. The only thing that you need to do is just add a little bit of light, maybe some VFXs, and things might look better after that. So let's grab some of those walls and place them here. Okay. So here you can see that we will need to do something so that this part doesn't fly, and we need to fix a little bit the terrain behind. So yeah, iterating and going back and forth on different on different zones of your levels, I think is the way to go, and I think is the best way of producing more polished content, because it's very hard to do something spot on, like doing a whole environment piece just by modeling, like getting a concept and modeling everything one to one, and without iterating and improving it. It's very, very hard, and I would say that almost never happens. So and through iteration usually improvement comes. So that's a very nice way of working. Just don't spend too much time into one place. Go around your scene and show it to friends, show it to family, get their feedback, get other people's feedback. I think that there is not really like anything like a bad feedback. I would say that there is like a feedback which is not very constructive and doesn't really give you a lot of information. This is mostly like some if somebody just says okay, this sucks, this won't be like a very constructive feedback, but still it will be some kind of a feedback. But yeah, showing it to people, especially I found out very surprising for me. Let's make a quick build and see how the lights that we placed look like, and meanwhile I can talk a little bit more. So some of the most constructive feedbacks I've received, especially in the beginning of my career, I think were from people that were not at all artists, were just fans, either like people that play lots of games, or just people that like photographers, or people not really from game art industry. They really didn't know anything about the technical background and the technical aspect of what I was doing. But their feedback was very good, because what they see, like if a person, we as people have every day so much things that we are seeing in our lives, and all these things subconsciously even leave some mark, and this knowledge of the world around, and like proportions and lights and how lights work and how everything works together is just imprinted in our brain, and it's there. So even if you're not an artist, when you see something that is not right, you immediately, your brain says, okay, there is something wrong. You might not know exactly what is it, but you know that there is something wrong. So a lot of times, like showing it to people that were not really game artists was telling me, giving me exactly this feedback, and telling, okay, there is something wrong with the scene. Like they are saying, I don't know why I don't like it, or something like this. And sometimes when I'm talking just to artists, they tend to go more technical instead of going into such details, because they are being concentrated more of the execution of the whole environment, rather than the whole global feeling of it. So yeah, just try to get both technical and feedback which is from people not from the industry, which is just like feeling and what do they think about it. Okay, we built the lights. Yeah, I can see already one issue here. You can see that I have this sphere of reflection, which ends up here. So our reflections don't really work from outside that sphere. So what we need to do is just clone it over here. We have one more here, so they are going to kind of overlap. We can see that there is a little bit of an area which is not covered, so I'll just increase, I think, by 500, yeah, the radius of it, so it covers that area as well. And now we need to quickly come. It's very fast build, just build reflections. We don't need to build the lights, and you can see that now we have fixed that problem. Welcome to the people that I see joining on the stream. I see people coming and going all the time. Let's place some more elements. Here for this corner, I'm thinking that maybe I will use the same type of element, so we will rework it a little bit. So let's say something like that, and I will use this on the other side as well. 90 degrees, and yeah, like that. Like that should work out just fine. Okay, this I think it's too close. We need to give it a little bit more room to breathe. So let's make 4 elements, move them like that. Okay, like that is good. And where else? Maybe few elements here. I'll just quickly clone a couple of lights over here, so that we have some of those lights over there as well. If you're working with lights the way that I'm doing for the environment, like with those static lights, it doesn't really matter how many lights you have, because once it's baked, it's just not going to take memory. So the memory loss when baking is actually on the side of the textures, because it's creating those baked textures, which are something that after that adds to the size of your game. So this is something that, for example, if you're doing a mobile game and you really need to like for mobile games, the size of the application itself, it's very important, because some of the markets, they don't have unlimited data, so you want not to lose clients, basically. So you want your application to be as small as possible and packed with as many things as you can. And baking everything is something that actually increases the space, the memory that your game will require. So have it in mind. How to optimize it is how many meshes you are going to have on your levels, and how they are going to be grouped, and how many light maps it's going to create. So just have it in mind that you don't need to go super crazy. So if you have just like very simple level, try to optimize it as much as possible. Okay, so here I think that I will go with the same elements. I'll repeat them one more time, like this, and we are going to use the same corner. I think these corners work pretty well. And here, yeah, this actually I'm going to put one more corner. maybe no, maybe no. Doesn't work really for me. So we will think of something else. Maybe we will make some other type of mesh. We'll see how it works. I'll think a little bit about this part. I'm not still sure and convinced what exactly to do there. So let's start fixing a little bit some of the issues and places that we have problems, like some flying geometry, like here. Also, yes, here. This. And let's see. Oh, here we have okay, let's check some other places. Oh yeah, definitely we want to fix that place. And here I'll just make it a little bit more straight, not to have this weird shape. And I'll give it a little bit more room here as well, and on that side also. Yeah, I think like that it's should work okay. Of course, we are going to put on most of the places on the edges. We are going to put the same borders like here, so this will help a lot. Here I found one more place that needs fixing. Okay, let's now go quickly and paint some of these places. So here I will paint some other material. Oops, here is our tiles. And yeah, here we need to paint our tiles as well. And yeah, the rest of the places, I think here we are not good, so like that. Here, just to make it a little bit more interesting, I will just make like, maybe this was too much, so let me lower the strength and I will do like this. You can see that now we have a little bit of blending between those, just so that we can a little bit break here and there some of the tiles, not to have everywhere completely clean tiles. I think especially when I put the meshes for the seals, I will do such like a region of dirt, let's call it, around them, so it's not that dull and has a little bit more some details. We are probably going to go back and forth a little bit more. Let's put some of these dirt on the lines where characters are walking. Maybe they brought some with their boots and armors and everything else that they used to when coming here. It's always good to add some stuff like that, and also think a little bit about the story behind the whole place, because it gives more, makes it more believable. If you think about some small, I would say small stories inside the main story, so we as artists can always think of something and implement it somehow into our environment. Okay, this works well. So here we are almost done. There are a couple of meshes that I need to import. One is definitely the seals, and there are some other ones that we need to rotate here and there. So I'm going to come to the initial part, and yeah, let's finish those here. So I will just go through these elements, select them, and we are going to duplicate them on the other side. Rotate it. Okay, and I'm gonna grab those as well. Okay, and for here, for this one, as I showed you on the reference, let me open it again just to find it. So yeah, you can see that here on those places we have these arches. So I'm going to use, I already made this one, so I'm thinking that I'm just gonna use it. If it doesn't work that well, I might create another. So this one is actually a combination of two models, so I can ungroup it, and then for the ending to close it like this. So we can make it like that. Maybe they're a bit too big, so I'll just make something a lot more lighter and thinner, so that we can not hide that much of our environment. I saw that there's just a single arch like that without anything else, so I'm just gonna use it like this with the spikes towards the camera so that we see what's happening. Let's see, I think that this is going to be yeah, those are hiding too much, so maybe I'll just make a variation of them which will be hiding less. And I also need to start placing a little bit more rocks on the sides here. Here we can see one more place where our sphere of reflection doesn't really cover everything, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to increase it, and I'm going to increase the other one as well. So I'll just make it even on 4. Yeah, now it's better. Let's walk a little bit on this space, see how it feels here, if it's too big, too small. Especially on the new area that we just were adding meshes. So yeah, I think it works well. It adds some detail there to the camera. This part here is good. There we need to fix it a little bit, and this part here for the seal, there is enough space for the seal and also for us to move around, so also works well. I think in terms of space it's not too tight, so that's a good thing. I usually up here you can see that we found a place to fix, so we are going again and just using our flatten. Done. Here I will paint some of the lava like this. Okay, pretty good. Here we can see that it gets too much from the lava, so I'm going to paint back some of the bricks. This is in Unreal. I don't know if you guys all know, you can switch between different modes. So I'll make a quick build and see where we are at the moment. I'm building on preview quality, so things are not too crisp. There is a little bit of light bleeding here and there, and it's something that when I increase for the end result the quality of the light builds, it will become better. But now we are just making some test builds to see how everything works out. So you have those different modes in Unreal that you can check, and I really encourage you to do so from time to time on your scenes, because sometimes textures hide issues with your lights, or doesn't make it that understandable of what exactly is happening. So those different modes can really help you understand better. Like for example, here you can see that what's happening is that there is some VFX or something which is around this zone, and it's causing the bright spots to already turn into a different color. So this is an area that I definitely need to look into. Same over here. Here we are working fine, but here we have same issue again. So now when we finish building our lights, we will see if there will be some other issues presented. And here we can see that there is some small piece from our terrain that is not flat. Also, let's see. The skulls, they have a very low resolution for the light map. I didn't want to make any high resolution because it will just take too much of memory, so it's not really worth it, especially from the distance that you see and you play the game. Let's wait a little bit more just to see how after the building of the lights it will look. So I will also in today's stream, like we are kind of to the end of going around this scene here. I also wanted to just show you a little bit behind the scenes for the teaser for Diablo 2, what I did. So I'm just going to open the scene. I also am using their Unreal, but the way that I build up the scene and the way that everything is being done, it's with a different logic than making it for games. So I think that it will be interesting for you to see the comparison between building the environment for game. Like here I'm thinking about optimizing how many meshes there will be at the same time on the screen, how many textures I'm having and all this stuff. While there, the way that I'm using lights and all these things, it's much different than just doing it for games. So also there, my main purpose for the lights is not only to have the lights there, but also to be a tool for building up my frame and framing everything and just keeping the interest of the viewer in the area that I want. So yeah, I think that from this scene for now we are okay. I'm going to close it and I'm going to open the one for the teaser, so I can show you a little bit there. I actually used some of the geometry that I built for this project into the one that's for the cinematics. The thing is that I'm trying to hide it. Some of the geometry I actually rebuilt or used some of the high polys. But yeah, let's open that one and see how it looks. So yeah, leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this one. Do you want me to go through some of the elements? Just feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to make like some more in-depth tutorial if you want. So I'm closing this, and yeah, we can close our max scene as well. And let's go and open the one which is for the cinematic. It will take a few seconds to load. So also the version of Unreal, by the way, that I'm using for the cinematic and for the level itself, it's different. So this one is 425, which I'm using for the cinematic, and the one that I'm using for building the game level is 422. And the difference is actually very big. I had the 424 installed, and between that one and between 425, they changed a lot in terms of where some of the menus are. Also, they changed quite a lot into the lights and how they work and how they look. And also there are some new features and some new things which are inside the 425. I still didn't update it to the latest one, 425.1, but it's mostly because it's just some bug fixing, so it's not really there's nothing really which is some major update. So if I see, for example, the next one that there is some major stuff, I will probably update it. Welcome to the stream. So for the cinematic, I'll show you. I used one reference, was my main reference for what I wanted to do there. Okay, so it's loaded. It takes some time. Actually, I think that I opened it twice. Yeah, so I'm just gonna close one of it. Yeah. So yeah, this is the scene, and you can see that for that one, it actually looks a lot different than what we have in the game. First, I added a lot more elements and a lot more details. Also, the resolution for the textures that I'm using, it's a lot higher. And the other thing, which is the main difference, is that I actually build up only the parts that are gonna be visible from the camera. So let me run you through. I'll open my sequencer. I have it on my other monitor, but I'll just dock it here on the bottom. So let's go through the camera. So I have this is like the first part of the camera. Then we have the second shot, and then it continues. And there is one transition here which I didn't like it. I tested so many things for it, but at the end I ended up completely removing it and just ended up making those cuts like hard cuts instead of and fading after that, instead of having this type of movement. And here I also played a little bit with the camera and like what's happening. Boom, this guy. So here I think that maybe I went through 10 or more different versions of it, and yeah, it went through lots of process. I'm working pretty much the same amount of time that I worked on the building the remastered level. I spent on building this scene. So this one was not that I didn't spend that much time in building the assets and building everything like the one for the Act 4 remaster, but this one I spent a lot more time into just with some basic cubes and just building up the frame and where I exactly want to have the characters, what camera movements I want to have. So I spent I think well over 30 hours just building these things, and once I had them, the building of the scene, I think it took me just few hours, like maybe 4 or 5 hours just to finish the visual part, since especially I already had lots of the meshes built from the remaster project. And yeah, the lights and the light setup took me also maybe about an hour or so to play a little bit with them. Especially I had already some of the lights built in the initial planning. So yeah, that's how this one looks like. I can show you again one more time a little bit around the scene. You can see our friendly skeleton. And this here, it's pretty much I'll show you the reference. As I said, I'm following one reference image, and this is this reference image. It's exactly before you're entering the Diablo layer and the Diablo site. So I built up some of the stairs down because I was not sure in the beginning what exactly I want to do with the camera. The ones on the side, I went initially with the zombies or the people that are not zombies, sorry, the people that are pinned into those fireplaces, but I didn't end up making it work very well. I think that I actually still have. I will try to find it. I made super a lot of different versions. I was not really happy with the result, so at the end I ended up just changing a little bit the design and the looks of it. So let's see, where is it? Yes, this one. Let's go in max. So this one, actually I did it for some of the walls, and those guys, except that they don't have fun time, they actually, I even have a version of them that I animated them so that they move around and they are being like tortured or something like that. So yeah, they are not in a very comfy position, stacked up on top of each other. And yeah, if you have any other questions, I think that we are coming to our end for the stream. Feel free to ask me, and also if you are not able to join the stream, just feel free to leave a comment afterwards. It will be available to check it out, and also it will be available to. You'll be able to write some comments, and yeah, just feel free to ask me any kind of questions. As I said, I'm adding. There is already a Discord server. You can find it in the social media links on the channel, and you can join there. At the moment, it's super basic. It just has the main tab, and but if you want to join, and if you have some questions with your own projects or something that you're interested in, join there. And yeah, after that you can just write me and send me already like some screenshots so that I can exactly have a look on your problem or the question that you have, because for the visual things, it's yeah, it's very complicated to give feedback if it's just on a few sentences on a comment. So yeah, thank you again for joining me today. I hope that this stream was interesting, and also that you find it useful. Please feel free to leave feedback and tell me what can be interesting for you. One of the things that I'm planning to do is I'm already working for a little bit more than 10 years in game dev. And one of the things that I'm planning to do for some of the next live streams is a Q&A session with some of the guys that I know from different studios. So for the next one, leave me comment on that one if it will be interesting for you. So for the next one, I want to do it a Q&A with a friend of mine, and also we worked in a few companies together. He's working at the moment on Mortal Kombat, and he's a technical artist. So I wanted to talk a little bit with him, make an interview to maybe tell us his perspective of what is it to be a tech artist, and to tell us a little bit more about his projects. And yeah, the next live stream is going to be a little bit more of questions from you, and also a little bit more look into what is it to work in the game dev industry, and how to start there, what is required, what kind of tasks you usually perform on different roles. I'll be talking from more from environment art perspective, and I will talk with our friend from technical art perspective. And for future, if that format is interesting for you and you want to know more insights, we can have like some VFX artists. We can have some guys that are from cinema and from not just from game dev industry. So to have lots of insights and lots of information from different sources, and hopefully it will be beneficial for all of you. Thanks again for joining me today. I think that for now my streams will be a little bit late, as usually I have the time already when I'm back from work. But for future, I will try to find a spot and maybe to make some of the streams into hours which are more friendly. Привет. Sorry, my Russian is not very good, but I know just the very basic. So hello, thank you for joining. So yeah, just leave any kind of comments. I'll be happy to help you. And as I said, the idea of me doing these streams and everything is to build a community and to have more people interested and people help each other to build some nicer and better looking games. And I think the whole game industry can just benefit from more people like getting this feedback and getting all this information. And since most of us are game fans or like playing games, we can later on see better ones. So thanks. Stay in touch. Don't miss the one on 19th. More Russians are coming. Okay. Let's wait for them. Let's hey, where are you from, guys? From Russia? I know a little bit of Russian. I'm originally from Bulgaria, but my wife, she's from Russia, and it's inevitable to learn. Cool. I never been to Ukraine. Only been to Russia so far. I worked with quite a lot, especially in my previous in the place where I work at the moment. There are not that many people from Ukraine. There is one Russian guy, but in the one before, I was working in Poland, and there were quite a lot. I think half of the coding team was from Ukraine, and like IT support and lots of other guys that we also met there from Ukraine. So yeah, it was lots of Ukrainians in Poland. If I go to Ukraine, where you will recommend me to visit first? Cool. How? I'm not going to ask what's happening to the games. I know that it's there's NDAs and stuff, so I'm not going to ask, especially for the second one where he disappeared. But cool. How is it? I'm curious. How is it the work for localization? Like, you find it interesting? And also, do you enjoy playing the games afterward? Oh, I think that I played both of them, and I especially enjoyed the environment for Vulcan. It looked so nice, especially the first hour. The first hour was so pretty. They have some they found some very nice artists, and the thing is that it's also very simplistic, so it's done in a way that they don't have that many assets and nothing super fancy, but they just have very nice light setups, and the atmosphere, it's like with VFXs and everything around, it works very very well, and yeah, looks very cool. Let's okay, I will open the one with the gameplay and show you a little bit where we are so far. Not much of a gameplay still. It's something that I will just create some very very basic gameplay functionalities, because we have one more week to go before the end of it. I want to finish the visual side, but also there will be some gameplay, because at the end from the project, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to make a build, and this build will be available for everyone to grab it and just enjoy it, and play a little bit at home, get some nostalgia for playing on Diablo. The stream will be available, so no worries if you missed it. It will be available on the channel to go back and look into what happened, and yeah, feel free to check it and see. You missed me talking a little bit more about game dev. So yeah, this is how far we are. The level, it's thanks. It's slowly growing. I already have some NPCs. They have like just very very basic logic at the moment, and they're just still on those green dummies from Unreal. You can see that they are not very smart. They kind of bump into each other. But for the final result, I want to make them a little bit more aggressive. So they will definitely come at you. You will be able to kill some of them, and yeah, just walk around, have a couple of kills, and have some fun in the kind of remastered version of Act 4. So just to enjoy some time killing. It's always nice killing stuff around in games. There's those two zones that are left, and there are some things that we need to fix here, but overall we are up to here, and on the other level, when we go already down where Diablo is, we have this. So here I have some small things that needs to be done, like the endings to make this rocky, to make them with some rocks and some scatter, so that it just doesn't end like that. Build this part, and here you can see that we already progressed quite a lot. So for that part, I can actually walk a little bit in here. Still, there is more work to be done for the lava, and for there are still some meshes and some other things that are missing, especially enemies and bones and skulls and all these other small details that I will be scattering around. Also, we need to finish the zone here for Diablo, and also I need to model. Actually, there are left only 2 assets that I need to model. One is the seal. There are a couple of assets that I still didn't import, so there are those seals, and the other thing that I need to do is to model the waypoint, which is for here, and also the one which is before you actually go in here. So those we will need to be modeled. So tell me, guys, you had the chance to see the short teaser. What do you think about it? Are you excited for seeing some more short stories from Diablo? And is it something that is gonna be interesting? And we have a question. When the game is released? On 19th. Not gonna be a full game. It's going to be more of a like a fan one zone area where I want to put some small gameplay, and just to be able to just walk around. If somebody by the way is going to be interested into the project and going to be interested to add some gameplay, since I'm just a simple artist, I'll be more than happy to share the source files from Unreal and to give them all the environment and everything that has been built, so that they can play with it and add more things. As for the short stories, it's something that I so far I'm planning to start with doing just 3 episodes. So we have the teaser, and we are going to have 3 episodes, which are going to be around 10 to 12 minutes each episode. And my idea there is to create some nice looking Diablo lore series. Of course, they are going to be completely free to watch on the YouTube channel, and just hype a little bit more people about it, and to from there on, if there is more interest on some more lore content and some storytelling with building environments and all these things, I will continue definitely do more videos like that. They take quite a lot of time. I'm expecting the first episode to manage to finish it maybe within a month and a half, something like that. So somewhere middle of next month or end of next month, first episode is gonna be out. I still don't want to give a permanent concrete date because I'm still into animating and building and creating some of the characters for it. So it's a little bit too early into the production to tell you exactly when the first episode gonna be out. But my idea there is that I'll put each month a new episode, or each 2 months new episode. And there will be, as I said, around 10 to 12 minutes. Maybe some of them will go even a little bit longer, depending on what exactly we are telling as a story. But yeah, also depending on how much free power I will have for animating, and yeah, we need to do also the voice acting and all the other elements for them. So it will be there's some work to be done there, yeah. I saw a place here that needs fixing, and I won't be able to sleep if I don't fix it. Are you going to release a video today? Video, you mean from the tutorial series? Or because for the tutorial series, I have one video that I already recorded. I was thinking to put it for the weekend, and then there's 2 others which are in process of being recorded, recording them. Therefore gonna be for Monday and Tuesday, and for next week I will have the majority of the week is going to be tutorials. So from Monday till Thursday are going to be just tutorials. And then on Friday 19th is going to be the end result for this scene. So yeah, from Monday till Thursday are going to be all the tutorials, and what I planned for this week are mostly modeling tutorials. So I'll go back a little bit in for 3ds Max, Zbrush, and since so far some of the the majority of modeling things that I've been showing, and this is kind of how I gradually going to transition. So most of the things so far were more for beginner levels, and now I'm going to go something like more of an intermediate level. We are going to look into some trim sheets. Also, we are going to look into some a little bit more complex modular buildings, and how we can build modularity for our scenes. And actually, the tutorial series for the modularity, I'm thinking after that to make it into a small series, maybe of 3 or 4 episodes, depending how long it will take me to create it. But I want to make a small scene, which it will be something on a more fantasy topic. So a small scene of modular elements, and I will try to put in that one some techniques which are not very common and not that popular for creating modular elements, because I think that there are quite a lot of videos about creating like standard modular kits, like which are every 3 meters or every meter or something like that. So I would like there to create a little bit more not that standard kit, so that you can create a little bit different types of shapes. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. I hope that it will be an interesting thing to see, and we are going to combine that one definitely with some trim sheets, so that we can quickly and easy show you how to build bigger environments and like the power of trim sheets. So that's pretty much what is it to come. Again, thank you for joining to the stream. It's been pleasure the last a little bit more than 2 hours of joining all of you and all the questions that you guys asked. I hope that all the things that you see are interesting, and just feel free to, if you have a topic that you need some advice, help, or something like that, just feel free to leave a comment. I will put it for sure into the planning of new tutorials and new series. And as I said, on the next stream, we are going to do it together. I will invite a friend of mine, a tech artist, to make an interview with him and talk a little bit about what is it to work in game dev from tech art perspective, and also for him to share a little bit of his story and how he started. Hopefully it will be interesting and helpful for you, that you can also see kind of how he started and how he grew up in the industry. So thanks again for joining me today. I think that the next I'll try to do the streams once per week, or at least like to have 3 streams for the month. So probably every Friday or Saturday we are going to have a new live stream where I'll be showing you some of the backstage things of like tutorials and some of the scenes that we are building for the last week, and also, as I mentioned, start those Q&As and some live sessions with some guys from the game dev industry. So for those, feel free to leave comments of what kind of people it will be interesting for you, like technical artists, VFX, maybe texture artists, and also from which studio you might be interested to hear what's happening there, and maybe to hear some interesting stories. I think that from most of the places maybe we will find I don't know how they will react. Since game dev industry, it's not a super huge place. I think the majority of people, especially if you already spent like a couple of years working around different studios, you already have know quite a lot of people. And also it's not very hard and hidden to find if somebody is doing something. So I think that probably somebody already saw something from it. I would say that they are not very impressed. Maybe because we are doing this into a certain time frame. I wanted to finish the whole project within a month and a half. So definitely there are many places that many areas that I kind of cut corners and just made it chose a little bit the faster way rather than the way that I will do in a normal game production. But yeah, overall, I think that we kind of make it to a good point. It won't be. It will be not bad remaster. Yeah, it will be a playable game. I'm going to put it as downloadable content for on the video that's coming on 19th. It will be completely free, just a fan kind of walkthrough around the Act 4 environment. And also, as I mentioned earlier, I will be happy to give the source of like all the environment art and everything done so far. If somebody wants to work and experiment with blueprints and or with C++ and do some gameplay logic behind it, because my knowledge of creating gameplay and programming, I would say it's on a basic level, and I'm able to do just like very, very simple interactions. So we are just going to have like some fight mechanics and some very simple AI that goes after us and tries to kill us. So and some chests, maybe some loot boxes and stuff like that. But other than that, we won't have like the full glory of an RPG. Let's save everything. Thanks. See you next time, and I'll keep you posted when the next stream is gonna be. I will put a community post 1 or 2 days before that, just to make like a small reminder for it. And also I will put on that post a little bit more information about some of the topics that we will cover with our interview, and some of the some of the things that we are gonna talk about. And also, please feel free to leave comments on that post if you want us to talk about a certain thing. I will leave a little bit of a background for our guests that will be for our next stream, so that you know kind of what stuff he worked on. And yeah, it will be we were going to go with the questions from that post and see how much information we can give you inside the whole secrecy of game development. Thanks, bye, have a nice evening, and see ya next time.